any future discussion or dialogue between us is going to take place under the auspices of prayer. As far as I'm concerned, I won't. I refuse. I will refuse to speak with you and talk and discuss anything unless you acknowledge that Jesus Christ is present, and that when we come together and discuss and talk about things, that you have acknowledged that it's Jesus Christ who is present and who is working and operating through the relationship in that moment. The Bible clearly says when 2 or 3 people come together and agree upon anything, that's what God ratifies in heaven. This is a clear scriptural principle. So when we come together, if we aren't coming together in prayer, first of all, I don't have any interest, because it's not in alignment with my mission, given to be my God, and so therefore it doesn't have anything to do with he's not calling me, or I have no responsibility to a person who's not willing to, a person who's a Christian who's not willing to first sit down and meet prayerfully and discuss things in a manner which is related to Christian principles based on solid scripture and church teaching. And if you're not willing to discover and discuss the meaning of the scriptures and the meaning of Catholic Church teaching and how it applies to Christian life, then I don't have anything to offer you, because that's my gift to the church, is to help to bring a deeper understanding of the faith to people, and you can rest your life and your position on the necessity of faith and faith alone. But if you intend to do that, I just want to let you know you have ceased to become Catholic in your proclamation that faith, that it's not necessary to understand your faith and to grow in that understanding through people who actually have a better understanding of the faith than you, and can then help you to apply it. And then through that process of helping you to apply that, perhaps you can aid in the discussion about the direction and future of the church in Brevard County. But ultimately, the future and the direction of the church in Brevard County is going through me, because that's what Jesus Christ has chosen, not what Mark Cahill has chosen. And so if you profess to be a follower of Christ, as you do, then you have to take seriously the consideration that what I'm saying is true, and that your disobedience to Christ is evident in the way that you act and treat and react towards me and my calls and requests for prayer and for serious discernment of God's will in terms of how we can bring about a Missionaries of Charity Lay Association here in Brevard County, and how we can then, moving on from there, we can help reach out to those who are suffering and most in need, the poorest of the poor, women who are suffering from the tragedy of abortion in their life, providing a shelter and a home for them, for people who are faced with this this challenge. I think we need to work in conjunction with possibly with Mark Hall. I'm not 100% sure. I kind of think that's where God's calling me to right now, but he's a man who needs to have the support of the Christian community in the work that he does. He is on the front lines trying to convince women to reconsider going into abortion clinics and having abortions, and he drives around in a truck with the sonogram equipment, which helps them to maybe take the time to reflect on what they're doing, and to have more information and data when they're going into this serious consumer decision. I mean it's from a Christian perspective, obviously we do not understand the abortion industry in terms of human life is not a commodity. We don't accept it, but it is a commodity, and the abortion industry makes a commodity out of human life. Okay, and it says that we will provide you a service to terminate a human life in exchange for X amount of dollars, right? And so as a corporation whose main purpose is to function to make a profit, and they have no adherence, obviously, to Christian principles just by the very nature of their work. It's impossible. But if it was ridiculous enough for someone to say, well, I'm a Christian doctor and I provide abortion services, he could not escape the truth that he's not presenting an accurate amount of information for his consumers to make an informed decision. So in other words, from a strictly consumer protection point of view, I don't understand why we can't attack the abortion industry from a consumer protection point of view, because we have consumers who are women, who are going in to obtain services, to receive an abortion, and then we have the company whose main goal is to provide those services to make a profit, and they have the incentive of not giving the woman information which is vital to making that decision in an informed manner. And so we may not be able to change the abortion laws, but I don't understand why we can't attack the consumer rights of the individuals going in for those services. For example, I'm basing this on the one day that I paid attention in economics class, in college, was about Adam Smith and the theory of capitalism proposed by him in The Wealth of Nations. Said that in order for the consumer to make a rational choice, he has to have all of the information available to him, and then he can make a rational choice. And if people are making rational choices, then capitalism can work the way that it's supposed to. But part of the problem with that is that when we divorce our consumer mentality and we divorce capitalism from Christian principles, we run into a situation where ethics have no consideration. And so what ends up happening is that profit becomes the primary purpose and reason for the existence of a corporation. And so if profit is the sole God, then anything else that comes in the way of profit, even if it's the expediency of getting rid of a human life, is acceptable. Like, in other words, if profit is your goal and profit is the God, then anything that takes away from making a profit is okay to do, because the ends justify the means. And so anyway, I'm glad I showed up in class that day and paid attention, because it really did, and it's a simple basic principle of economics, right? And that's how we can defeat these sophisticated thinkers, who have developed elaborate rationalizations for their lifestyles. It's just through the simplicity of God's truth and using common sense based on that. So anyway, my plan is to provide him and others like him with support who are sincerely interested in saving women from making a terrible decision, through, helping to advise them as consumers as to other alternatives that they need to consider before they make this decision to, terminate the life. And one of the ways that he contributes to that is through giving them an opportunity to view the fetus that's within them and to see the evidence of life that exists in sonograms. And the truth in reality is that there have been many people throughout the past 30 years who have changed their position, including Dr. Bernard Nathanson, who was the founder of NARAL, the North American Reproductive Action League, who was unable to continue his support for abortion when sonogram technology developed to the point where he could no longer deny that there was life in the womb. And so as a result of his conversion, he then exposed how he and his partner who founded this group, had fabricated statistics about back alley abortions which were not actually taking place in order to whip up fear in the public, in order to gain public support for the legalization of abortion. And he did all this in the 1960s with his partner. And that shows you the insidious nature of these people, whose consciences are clouded by the darkness of sin and the profit for motive and power and the evil one, that they're willing to lie to accomplish something out of fear, which is immoral, right? It's immoral to use fear to create a false a false environment that's conducive for your business practices. So in other words, if I like went around, as a Christian man, and I went around selling insurance to people saying that, man, look how terrible the world is out there. You need to really think about, defending yourself by getting this security system installed in your house, and buying a shotgun, and like you're promoting a culture of fear. You're not promoting trust in the Lord, which says that be not afraid and do not fear the things of this world. That nothing can separate you from the love of Jesus Christ, or the love of God found in Jesus Christ, except for a free act on your part. Nothing external to you. No one else can force you to think or do anything that you truly don't, you're not convicted of. If you're convicted of something, in other words, no one can force you to do anything. They can try to coerce you, and they can try to, they can even imprison you, and try to prevent the freedom of your movement, but they can't change the interior of a human being. If I become committed and convicted of the truth and the reality of Jesus Christ, the only person who can turn away from that is me. No one can force me to do that, right? And for you to make the excuse that someone else somehow has the capacity to make you stop believing in Jesus is evidence that maybe you really didn't believe in him as deeply as you thought you did in the first place. So it's not like Mark Cahill has nothing to do with whether you accept the truth of the Catholic Church's teaching. I mean, the truth is the truth. The truth of the Scriptures is the truth, and I can continue to work on, striving to understand that better myself, so I can, communicate that better to other people. Yes, that's something I can continue to work on, but the fact that I am imperfect in my communication will always be true, as was John Paul II and the greatest saints in the history of the Church were all imperfect in their delivery and communication of the message of Jesus Christ, because they were not Jesus Christ himself. But yet Jesus still continues to choose men and women to be his authorized representatives and to work to spread the gospel despite their imperfections. But what he does ask of us is a serious examination of our life, to say that are we being truthful and honest about the way that we're spending our time, the way that we make our living. Do we make our living by supporting something that's totally unjust use of wealth, or that's contrary to the Christian lifestyle? And then we have to ask ourselves, well, what type of Christian do I want to be? Do I want to be the type that compromises, or do I want to be the one that follows Christ closely? Do I want to truly be his disciple? And these are all part of one's free choice and decision about how they want to follow Christ. But you can't call yourself a true disciple unless you're willing to accept the demands of true discipleship. So anyway, I'm losing focus a little bit on so what I would like to do is to support Mark Hall in his ministry by providing him with an outlet for those women who do come to accept that this isn't a right choice, but are in a position where they feel like, well, I don't have any support from the people who are supposed to love me and care for me, but I want to make this decision because it's the right decision, so that he can say, there's a place that you can go. There's a safe place that you can go where there are people who are committed to helping you. And this safe place is, that's for us to figure out and decide and to build, and to be committed to helping women in that situation. That's just part of the plan.